Welcome back to the channel. I've got some new stories for you tonight. The first one I found in a retail worker forum, posted by someone who sounded like they'd never take the closing shift again. It's the kind of tale that makes you question who's really there with you and what they're waiting for. Here's what they wrote. I used to work at a regional discount store, one of those grim places with flickering lights, warped linoleum tiles, and an eternal layer of dust no one ever really cleans. It was just a job to get by while I figured things out. Nothing glamorous. Mostly I worked closing shifts. Just me, sometimes one other person if the budget allowed. That night, it was just me. It was late October, I remember that much. Most of the Halloween clearance stuff was still out by the doors. Plastic spiders, crumpled cardboard skeletons, candy no one wanted even when it was full price. The place was dead quiet, just the faint drone of the ceiling lights and the occasional creak of metal shelving settling. Around 10:43 p.m., while doing one last sweep of the store, I noticed someone standing in aisle 6. A tall man in a long black coat, facing the shelves like he was reading soup labels. But he wasn't moving. At all. No shifting weight. No arm twitch. Nothing. Just frozen, locked into place like a wax figure. I gave it a minute, thinking he might be zoning out or killing time waiting for someone. But when I glanced back, he was gone. Only when I looked up at the security monitors above the self-checkout, he was still there. Still in the same spot. Still perfectly still. There was no delay in the feeds, maybe half a second at most. But when I checked the aisle again with my own eyes, it was completely empty. The man had vanished, and yet the monitor showed him standing right there. I stared at the screen, feeling something sink in my stomach. Then the man turned. Not gradually, not naturally. He pivoted his whole body sharply toward the camera, like someone spinning a mannequin on a fixed base. His face tilted up. It was like he knew I was watching. His expression was blank. Nothing behind the eyes. The feed glitched, a flicker of static. And when it cleared, the aisle was empty. I walked the whole store, trying to reason it out. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe I was overtired. I checked every aisle, including the break room and storage closets. Nothing. No trace of anyone. But the air felt wrong, pressurized, like a storm was building inside the store. I kept hearing small sounds. A cartwheel turning once, slowly. A faint rustling sound, like a box being dragged. A beep from self-checkout, even though I'd powered it down an hour ago. Every time I followed the noise, it would stop. And every time, there was no one there. Around 11:05, I was ready to lock up. I headed to the front doors, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my keys. That's when I heard it, 3 knocks. They came from deep inside the store, deliberate and slow. It sounded like knuckles tapping on metal. The sound came again, this time closer. Somewhere just past the clearance bins by aisle 6. Sharp, measured. Like someone wanted me to know they were still there. I called out, trying to keep my voice steady, just some version of "stores closed." But there was no reply. No footsteps, just silence. I didn't go check the aisle. I didn't want to see him again. I locked the doors as fast as I could and ran to my car. I didn't even check if I'd set the alarm properly. I just drove. Fast. No music. Both hands gripping the wheel like I was afraid to let go. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My thoughts kept circling back to the image of that man turning toward the camera like he knew exactly where I was. I quit 2 days later. I called in sick, sent an email, and never went back. But I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. The knocking, the static. That moment when our eyes met, through a camera. About a week after I left, I noticed the store had posted a job listing online for an overnight inventory position. That stuck out. We never had overnights. The store always closed at 11, no night shifts, no exceptions. I messaged a former coworker, someone I used to chat with on breaks, to ask what was going on. She said they found signs someone had been living inside the store. Up above the drop ceiling tiles over aisle 6, maintenance discovered what she called a nest. Food wrappers, trash, water bottles, even a sleeping bag. From what she heard, whoever it was had probably been up there for weeks, possibly months. Quiet enough to avoid detection. Only reason they found out was because the new hire had complained about strange noises, rustling, occasional thumps, and whispers late at night. It was likely the man I saw wasn't a ghost, or a glitch, or a trick of the eye. He was real, and he was up there the whole time, watching, hearing, waiting. That should have been the end of it, but I couldn't leave it alone. One night, I parked across the lot from the store around closing time. I just sat in my car, headlights off, watching through the front windows. The store looked the same. That same off-yellow lighting. That same warped aisle down the center. And there he was, a man standing in aisle 6. The coat was different, gray, not black, but the posture was identical. He was still, arms at his sides, not shopping, not moving, just waiting. I didn't stay long after that. A few nights later, I woke up in the middle of the night, 2:17 a.m. My apartment was dark, silent, but something had jolted me awake. The bedroom door was open. I always close it. Always lock it too. I checked the whole apartment with a frying pan in hand. Nothing was out of place, nothing missing, no signs of forced entry. But the air had that same pressure I remembered from the store, that same too quiet stillness. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been there. The next morning, I checked the store listing again. There was a new post. They were hiring overnight security, specifically looking for someone comfortable working alone. That was it for me. I moved a few months later. New job, new city, smaller place with no back room and no aisle 6. But sometimes, late at night, I still feel like I'm not alone. The hum of electronics will rise suddenly, or I'll hear a knock from somewhere in the wall that has no pipes or vents. I tell myself it's just the building settling, and yet, the thought still comes back again and again. What if he wasn't just hiding in the ceiling? What if he never left? What if he's not the only one? If you're ever working the closing shift, and you see someone on the security feed that isn't standing where the camera says they are, don't wait to find out why. Lock up. Walk away. And whatever you do, don't check aisle 6. That's where that story ends. An empty store, a flickering monitor, and a figure who shouldn't have been there. It's the kind of thing that makes you wonder who's really watching when you think you're alone on the floor. But while that one left a chill, the next story hits differently. And this time, it's not about who's in the aisle. It's about what gets brought back to the counter. Here's the next one. This happened when I was working at a mid-sized hardware store in rural Arizona. The kind of place with buzzing sodium lights and aisles that smell like rubber and WD-40. It wasn't a chain, more like a leftover from the 90s that hadn't caught up with anything. No digital inventory, barely working registers. One of those places where the receipt is just a yellow carbon copy and your manager's office is also the break room. I worked part-time, mostly stocking, but I got roped into closing one night when our shift lead bailed. It was just me and the assistant manager, Troy, who barely spoke, unless he was chain-smoking behind the building. He handed me the keys around 8:30, said he was heading out early, and told me to lock up at 10. I didn't really care. It was a quiet night. A few late-night tool guys, one older woman buying light bulbs. I spent most of the evening facing shelves and trying to get the dust off a stack of extension cords that hadn't moved since Bush was in office. At 9:48, someone came in. That already annoyed me. We had a big sign taped to the inside of the door. No returns after 9 p.m., no exceptions. People ignored it all the time. And this guy? He looked like the kind who would argue about it, Late 30s maybe, tan work jacket, ball cap with no logo. His eyes were dark, but not in a tired way, just flat. No curiosity in them, like he was here out of obligation, not intent. He didn't say anything when he walked in, just held up a plastic shopping bag like that was supposed to explain it all. I could already feel the tension behind my eyes building. He walked straight to the return counter, didn't even look around. Set the bag on the counter and stared at me. I told him politely we weren't doing returns anymore. Our system shuts down after 9, and besides, I wasn't even authorized to process one. Corporate policy, not mine. He didn't move, didn't argue. Just tapped the bag once and kept staring. Something about that made me uneasy. I didn't want to open the bag, but I also didn't want to escalate anything, so I glanced in. It was a hammer. Not just any hammer, though. One of ours. Same store brand, same faded barcode sticker on the handle, but it looked old, like it had been through a decade of hard labor. The wood was cracked, the head rusted. Bits of what I hoped was red paint clung to the claw. We hadn't sold that model in years. I told the guy again, firm this time, that I couldn't take it back. I pointed to the sign. He still didn't say a word, just turned and walked toward the aisle where the hand tools were. I called after him. No response. I considered locking the doors and calling the cops, but it felt like overkill. Besides, maybe he was just weird. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Store was dead silent except for the occasional hum from the fridges near checkout. I did a quick walk to find him. He wasn't in the hand tools aisle, or any other aisle. I checked the restroom, empty. Break room, empty. Stockroom, locked from the outside, and my keys were still on me. The store was empty, but the hammer was gone. Here's where it got really strange. When I circled back to the front counter, I saw something new taped below the register. An old, yellowed piece of paper I swear hadn't been there before. It was crooked, edges curled. I leaned in to read it. Do not accept returns after dark. Some items carry things back with them. No date, no logo. Just that sentence, printed in faint typewriter ink, with a red pen slash across the bottom. My heart was pounding now. I tore the note off the counter and took a photo with my phone, but the screen glitched and didn't save the image. I took another. That one saved, but the text looked different in the photo. The next morning I went back in early to ask Troy about it. He didn't even blink. Just told me that note's been there since before he started. They replace it whenever it falls off. Not for customers, he said. That one's for us. He wouldn't say anything else. When I pressed him, he said, just don't take returns when you're alone, especially if the item's not in our system anymore. That wording stuck with me. Not in our system anymore. I looked up old invoices in the back room later that week, during lunch. Took a box of files from the year I thought the hammer might have come from. Found something I wish I hadn't. A report from 2016. Employee incident. One line redacted. But the rest said, refused return of rusted claw hammer. Customer became agitated. Left item on counter. Store closed normally. Item was found missing the next day. Employee reported seeing figure in reflection of aisle mirror after locking up. Same brand, same barcode. I transferred to a different store not long after. Still in retail, still miserable, but at least I sleep better now. I haven't been back to that location, not once, but I still wonder what would have happened if I'd processed that return. Scanned the tag, took the hammer back, where it would have gone. Or worse, what might have come with it. If you ever work returns at a small hardware store and someone walks in just before closing, trying to hand you back an old hammer, don't touch it. Don't scan it. Just back away. Because some items carry things with them, and some people never really leave the store. That's where that story ends. A rusted hammer, a vanishing customer, and a warning no one updates, but everyone obeys. It's the kind of thing that makes you question what gets left behind in places like that, and what finds its way back. But our final story goes even deeper, into a part of the store most employees don't even know exists. Here's the next one. This happened when I was 23, working at a discount store in northern Nevada. Not a big box place, more like one of those budget everything marts. Household junk, expired cereal, clothes with the tags blacked out. The kind of place that always smells like bleach and cardboard, no matter what aisle you're in. I was part of the stock team. 4 of us in total, rotating shifts. My job was mostly unloading shipments, breaking down pallets, and dragging merchandise to the floor. Mundane stuff. Mindless, really. Until it wasn't. The store was laid out in a weird way. There was the main sales floor, then the regular stockroom behind it, but off to the side, tucked past seasonal overflow, was an old back room that no one liked using. Stockroom B-17. But off to the side, tucked past seasonal overflow, was an old back room that no one liked using. Stockroom B-17. We didn't even have a key to it. The manager, Devin, had one. He kept it on a lanyard with a yellow tag that said, "Off limits, corporate use only." He told me once that the space used to be a rental for a business that had gone under, but when corporate bought the building, they just sealed it off and repurposed it for deep storage. Most of us figured it was just full of junk from before the buyout. Then, one morning during inventory, something got flagged in the system. An active RFID tag. From inside B-17. That shouldn't have been possible. Our scanners aren't strong enough to pick up signals through reinforced fire doors. But it was pinging. Just one item. A floor fan, SKU ending in 0934, marked as discontinued 5 years ago. The manager pulled me aside and said he needed a hand checking the room. I asked him if we were even allowed. He told me to just bring gloves. B-17 didn't look like part of the rest of the store. The walls were a different color, pale green, like an old hospital room. The air was colder, but not in a way that felt like AC. It was dry, dusty. I could feel it on my skin within seconds. There were no overheads in the first part of the room, just a few utility lights near the door. The rest was lined with stacks of unmarked boxes, shrink-wrapped and coated in grime. Devin didn't talk much while we looked, just walked ahead of me, checking his scanner, muttering numbers. I kept catching glimpses of things in the boxes: outdated packaging, expired food, a bin of mismatched remote controls. Some of it had mold on it. One box was leaking a thick black liquid that smelled like spoiled meat. I told Devin I was going to be sick, and he just told me not to touch anything we weren't assigned to scan. That was the first red flag. The ping led us to a stack of plastic-wrapped crates, covered in a mildew-stained tarp. Devin pulled it back and froze. Sitting right on top was the floor fan, still in its box, untouched, clean even. Not dusty like the rest, like someone had just put it there. When I leaned in to scan it, I noticed the box was already open underneath. Torn, like it had been ripped out and shoved back inside. There was something else stuffed into the box with it. Clothing. A folded red polo shirt, the same kind we wore as uniforms. I reached in with the scanner stick and lifted it slightly. Underneath the shirt was a name tag. Rita, floor team. I didn't know anyone named Rita. I asked Devin. He said nothing. Just took the scanner from me and told me to head back out. Said he'd finish the section alone. He sounded nervous. Later that day, I checked the HR board in the break room, the one with the employee anniversary photos. It went back 10 years. Near the bottom, in the 2017 row, I found her. Rita. Dark ponytail, smiling, holding a balloon bouquet. The note under her picture said, 3 years strong. That was the only photo of her. She wasn't in any others. No goodbye post, no write-up, nothing. I asked Sam, the old guy who handled receiving, if he remembered her. He stared at me a long time before saying, "No one talks about that. Not here." Things got worse after that. For about a week, the system kept flagging weird items, stuff from years back, discontinued or recalled, suddenly showing up in the inventory again, always pinging from B-17. Each time, Devin went in alone. Then one day, he didn't show up for work. We thought he'd quit. Management turnover was constant, but a new guy came in 2 days later with the same yellow key tag. Didn't say much either. I quit 2 months after that. Not because of anything big, just a build-up. The way the stockroom always felt a few degrees colder. The way no one talked about the items that went missing, or the ones that came back. The final straw, on my last day, I walked past B-17 while hauling broken shelving to the dumpster. Door was ajar, just a few inches. No one else was around. As I passed it, I heard the faint sound of a fan spinning, and behind it, something that sounded like breathing. Not loud, not panicked, just steady, rhythmic. I didn't look inside, I just kept walking, and I never went back. That's it for tonight. If these stories hit you, drop a comment and tell me. Did they get under your skin? Hit the like if you felt it, and subscribe for more. Turn on notifications too, the next one's coming. Until then, sleep light.